The stars looked different when you were about to die. Captain Veltar pressed his webbed fingers against the cool surface of his ship's viewing window. The void nebula stretched out before him like a purple-black ocean, beautiful and deadly. His convoy of 12 Catherian trade ships drifted through space like wounded sea creatures, their biohulls glowing faintly in the darkness. Everything had gone wrong so quickly. The Catherian ships were not built for war. They grew them instead of building them, using ancient biotechnology that shaped living coral and bone into vessels that could sail between the stars. The ships were beautiful things with smooth curves and translucent walls that pulsed with soft light. They looked like art pieces floating in space, but art could not stop plasma cannons. "Captain," called his communications officer Morlin. Her voice shook with fear. "The hegemony ships are moving again. They're getting ready for another attack." Veltar's large, dark eyes turned toward the tactical display. Red dots showed where the enemy ships waited like hungry sharks. The hegemony raiders had jumped them 3 hours ago, coming out of the nebula's thick gas clouds without warning. Their ships were ugly things made of black metal and sharp angles, covered in weapons that could tear apart a Catherian vessel in seconds. The first attack had destroyed 4 of his ships. The second had crippled 3 more. Now only 5 ships remained, and their escort vessels were gone. The Catherians had hired 2 consortium patrol ships to guard them, but those ships had been the first to die. Their pilots had been brave, but brave meant nothing when facing the hegemony's overwhelming firepower. "How many crew members do we have left?" Veltar asked. 2,043 souls, Captain," Morlin replied, "including the families in the colony ship." Veltar closed his eyes. Those families had been traveling to a new world, hoping to start fresh on a planet where they could grow their biocities in peace. Now they would die in the cold of space, far from any ocean. "Sir," came another voice. This was Krevan, his tactical officer. "The hegemony commander is sending a message. Put it on screen." The display flickered and the face of war leader Scarth appeared. The reptilian creature's yellow eyes gleamed with cruel pleasure. His scaled face split into what passed for a smile among his kind, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Catherian fish," Scarth hissed in the common galactic language. "You swim in waters too deep for you. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick." Veltar straightened his shoulders. "We are peaceful traders, Scarth. We carry no weapons. Why do you attack us?" "Because you exist," the hegemony leader laughed. "Your bioships will sell for good money. Your people will make fine slaves. And because no one will stop us. The consortium are weak fools who talk instead of fight. The Galactic Consortium will respond to our distress signal," Veltar said, though he did not believe his own words. "Let them come with their lawyers and their peace treaties," Scarth spat. "We have ruled this sector for 20 years. No one challenges the hegemony. No one can." The transmission ended, leaving Veltar staring at a blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew looked at him with desperate hope. They expected him to have answers, to find a way out of this nightmare. But he was just a merchant captain, not a warrior. "Send the distress signal on all frequencies," he ordered. "Include our position, our situation, and the number of civilians aboard." "Yes, sir," Morland said. Her fingers danced over her console, sending their cry for help out into the void. Veltar knew it was hopeless. The nearest consortium fleet was weeks away. The local patrol ships were busy with other duties or had already been destroyed by hegemony raiders. And the independent security companies would not risk their ships against such overwhelming odds. "Captain," Krevan said softly, "there are stories. Old stories about ships that came from beyond the galactic rim. Ships crewed by creatures from a death world." "Fairy tales," Veltar replied. "No intelligent life could evolve on a Class 12 death world. The radiation alone would kill any thinking being. But the stories say they survived," Krevan continued. "They say these creatures learned to fight because their world tried to kill them every day. They say their ships are made of metal and powered by controlled explosions." Veltar had heard such tales in trading posts across the galaxy. Stories of the Deathworlders who supposedly came from a planet called Earth. A world where liquid water fell from the sky and the air was full of poison gas that would burn the lungs of any civilized being. The stories claimed these creatures were covered in hair like animals and had only 2 eyes and 2 arms. Impossible, of course. No species could develop intelligence on such a hostile world. "Sir," Morland's voice cracked with excitement, "I'm getting a response to our distress signal." Veltar's heart jumped. "From who? What's their identity code?" Morland's face went pale. Her gills fluttered rapidly, a sign of extreme stress. The code says, Terran Defense Force, 3rd Expeditionary Fleet. Silence filled the bridge. Even the soft humming of the bioship's living systems seemed to quiet. Every Catherian knew that name from the old stories. Terra was the supposed real name of the mythical death world. Earth? That's impossible, Veltar whispered. Captain, Krivan said, his voice barely audible. The tactical sensors are picking up something. Multiple contacts coming out of hyperspace. On the main screen, reality tore open like fabric. Ships emerged from the hyperspace tunnel, but they were like nothing Veltar had ever seen. Where Catherian vessels were smooth and organic, these were angular and harsh. Where consortium ships were sleek and elegant, these were covered in armor plating and weapon mounts. They looked like predators. How many ships? Veltar asked. 15 vessels, sir. But their power signatures... Krivan paused, checking his readings again. Sir, these ships are generating energy levels that should melt their hulls. How are they containing that much power? Maybe they can't feel pain like we do, Morlin whispered. Maybe they built their ships to survive anything because they had to. The lead ship was enormous, easily 3 times the size of their largest trade vessel. It was dark gray metal with red markings that looked like warnings. As Veltar watched, the ship's communication array turned toward them. Unknown Catherian vessels, came a voice over the communication channel. The translator struggled with the alien words, making the voice sound harsh and guttural. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force ship Retribution. We received your distress signal. Are you in immediate danger? Veltar's hands shook as he reached for the communication controls. The voice sounded so calm, so confident, as if facing a hegemony fleet was nothing unusual. This is Captain Veltar of the merchant vessel Coral Dreams, he replied. We are under attack by hegemony raiders. They have destroyed 7 of our ships and killed hundreds of our people. We have civilians aboard, including families with young ones. Understood, Captain. Stand by. The channel went quiet. On his tactical display, Veltar watched the human ships move into formation. They moved like a school of fish, but these fish had teeth. Their positioning was perfect, each ship covering the others while maintaining clear firing lines. Captain, Krivan said, his voice full of wonder, the hegemony ships are pulling back. They're afraid. Veltar looked at the display and saw it was true. Scarth's raiders, who had been preparing for their final attack, were now backing away from the human fleet. The mighty hegemony, who had terrorized this sector for decades, was retreating. The communication channel crackled to life again. Admiral Chen's voice was still calm, but now there was something else in it. Something cold and dangerous. Hegemony vessels, she said. You have attacked peaceful traders and civilians. You have 60 seconds to withdraw from this system and never return. This is your only warning. In the distance, War Leader Scarth's angry roar echoed across all frequencies. The legends had become real, and the Deathworlders had come to answer their call. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the TDF Retribution, like a statue carved from stone. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight military style, and her dark eyes studied the tactical display with the focus of a hunting cat. Around her, the bridge crew worked at their stations with smooth efficiency. Every human on the bridge looked similar to Chen in some ways. They all had that same alert posture, the same quick movements, the same eyes that seemed to see everything at once. Their uniforms were dark blue with patches that showed Earth's continents. A world that most aliens thought was just a myth. Status report, Chen said in a voice that carried absolute authority. 15 hegemony vessels in a loose attack formation around the Catherian convoy, reported Commander Torres from the tactical station. Heavy cruisers and destroyers armed with standard plasma weaponry and particle shields. Their leader is broadcasting threats on all frequencies. How many Catherian survivors? 5 ships remaining, approximately 2,000 civilians. Their biohulls are badly damaged. They're sitting ducks out there, Admiral. Chen nodded slowly. She had seen this before in other sectors. The hegemony liked to attack peaceful traders because it was easy money with little risk. They were bullies who picked on those who could not fight back. Chen had grown up on Earth, where bullies learned very quickly that there were always consequences for their actions. Communications. Put me through to the hegemony commander. You're connected. Admiral. The main screen flickered and the scaled face of War Leader Scarth appeared. His yellow eyes narrowed when he saw Chen's human features. Like most aliens, he had heard stories about the Deathworlders but had never seen one in person. So, Scarth hissed. The legends are real after all. I thought your kind was just a fairy tale told by weak species to comfort themselves. We're real enough, Chen replied calmly. And you're attacking civilians under the protection of galactic law. Withdraw now and we'll let you leave. Scarth's laugh was like glass breaking. You think you can threaten me, human? I have 15 ships. You have 15 ships, but my crews have been fighting in this sector for 20 years. Your species just crawled out of some distant death world yesterday. Our species crawled out of that death world because we're very good at staying alive, Chen said, and we're even better at making sure threats don't survive long enough to hurt innocent people. Brave words from a creature I could tear apart with my bare claws. Chen smiled, and something in that expression made Scarth's scales ripple with sudden unease. You could try, she said softly, but you'd have to get through my ship first. And my ship was built by a species that spent 4 billion years learning how to kill things that were trying to kill us. The communication channel cut off. Around the bridge, Chen's crew prepared for battle with the calm precision of people who had done this many times before. There was no panic, no fear, just professional competence and something else. Something that would have surprised the watching Catherians. The humans were enjoying themselves. All ships. Battle stations. Chen commanded. Formation Delta 7. Let's show these raiders what happens when they pick on civilians. The human fleet moved like a single organism. Each ship knew exactly where to go and when to get there. Their formation was tight but flexible, allowing for maximum firepower while keeping escape routes open. It was the kind of tactical thinking that came naturally to a species that had evolved as pack hunters. Admiral, called Lieutenant Morrison from the sensor station, the Catherians are broadcasting on emergency frequencies. They're trying to warn us about hegemony tactics. Put it through. Captain Veltar's worried voice filled the bridge. Human ships, please be careful. The hegemony uses plasma weapons that can penetrate most shields. Their armor is very thick and they often use ramming attacks when they're losing. We don't want you to die trying to save us. Chen felt a warm feeling in her chest. Even facing death, the Catherians were worried about strangers who had come to help them. It reminded her why humanity had joined the galactic community in the first place. Thank you for the warning, Captain Veltar, she replied. But humans have been dealing with dangerous predators for a very long time. We know how to handle bullies. On the tactical display, the hegemony ships were spreading out into an attack formation. Their plasma cannons were charging, and their shields were at full power. War leader Scarth was clearly planning to overwhelm the human fleet with superior numbers and firepower. It was a good plan. It might even have worked against any other species. Weapons status? Chen asked. All railguns loaded with tungsten penetrators, Torres reported. Missile tubes armed with fusion warheads. Point defense systems online. We're ready for whatever they can throw at us. Chen studied the enemy formation for a moment longer. The hegemony ships were powerful, but they were designed for intimidating peaceful merchants and fighting other pirates. They had never faced an enemy that had learned warfare from the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Target their command ship first, Chen ordered. Let's cut off the head of this snake. The human weapons were different from anything else in the galaxy. While other species used energy beams and plasma bolts, humans had perfected the art of throwing very heavy objects very fast. Their railguns could accelerate tungsten rods to significant fractions of light speed, turning simple metal into unstoppable spears that could punch through any armor. Firing solution locked, Torres announced. Fire, Chen said calmly. The Retribution shuddered slightly as its main railgun discharged. A tungsten rod the size of a telephone pole shot across space at nearly 10% of light speed. The hegemony shields, designed to stop energy weapons, might as well have been made of paper. Scarth's flagship exploded in a ball of fire and metal. The other hegemony ships hesitated for a crucial second, unable to believe what they had just seen. In that moment of shock, the rest of the human fleet opened fire. Railgun rounds and fusion missiles crossed space like angry stars, and every shot found its target. My God, whispered Veltar's voice over the communication channel. How are they so accurate? Chen could have explained that humans had evolved from creatures that could hit a moving target while running at full speed through a forest. She could have mentioned that human reflexes were designed to track fast-moving prey and avoid even faster predators. She could have told him that human brains were wired for three-dimensional thinking and split-second timing. Instead, she simply said, "We practice a lot." The battle was not really a battle at all. It was more like a demonstration. The hegemony ships, built for fighting other pirates, fell apart under weapons designed by a species that had perfected warfare before they invented writing. Their plasma bolts splashed harmlessly against human shields that had been designed to withstand the radiation of a star. Their tactics, meant to overwhelm and intimidate, meant nothing to crews that had trained for exactly this kind of fight. Within 10 minutes, 8 hegemony ships were destroyed, and 3 more were drifting in space with their engines dead. The remaining 4 vessels were trying desperately to escape, their crews finally understanding what they were facing. "Should we pursue them, Admiral?" Torres asked. Chen watched the fleeing ships on her display. They were running toward the edge of the system, broadcasting surrender signals and begging for mercy. "No," she said finally. "Let them go. But keep tracking them. I want to know where they're headed." "Admiral," called the communications officer, "Captain Veltar is requesting permission to come aboard. He wants to thank us personally." Chen looked at the Catherian ships on her screen. They were beautiful vessels. Even damaged as they were, she thought about the families hiding inside those biohulls, the children who had almost become slaves, the peaceful traders who just wanted to make a living among the stars. "Tell him he's welcome aboard," she said, "but warn him that our ship is built for a high-gravity world. He'll need to use one of our mobility suits." As the Retribution moved closer to the Catherian convoy, Chen allowed herself a small smile. The galaxy was full of bullies and predators who thought they could take whatever they wanted from those too weak to fight back. But now there was a new factor in the equation. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they were not impressed by threats and intimidation. They had learned their lessons on a world where everything was trying to kill them, and they had learned those lessons very well. The age of easy prey was coming to an end. War Leader Scarth stared at the burning wreckage of his flagship through the viewport of his backup command ship. His yellow eyes blazed with rage, and his claws left deep scratches in the metal armrest of his command chair. Around him, his bridge crew cowered in fear. They had never seen their leader lose a battle so quickly. "Impossible," Scarth hissed. "No species could build weapons that powerful. Their ships should have melted from the energy output alone." His tactical officer, a nervous creature named Vexic, checked his displays with shaking hands. "Sir, the energy readings from their weapons don't make sense. They're using kinetic projectiles accelerated to impossible speeds, and their shields are containing power levels that should be physically impossible. They're just animals from a death world," Scarth snarled. "We outnumber them. We have more experience. Attack Formation 7. All ships focus fire on their largest vessel." The remaining hegemony ships moved into position, their plasma cannons charging for a coordinated strike. Scarth had used this tactic dozens of times before. Overwhelming firepower directed at a single target could punch through any shield system known to the galaxy. "Fire!" Scarth roared. 12 plasma cannons fired at once, sending streams of superheated gas toward the human flagship. The energy beams lit up space like tiny stars, carrying enough power to melt through the hull of any normal ship. The beams struck the Retribution's shields and simply disappeared. "What?" Scarth's voice cracked with disbelief. "How is that possible? Nothing can absorb that much energy." On the human ship's bridge, Admiral Chen watched the display with calm interest. "Damage report," she said. "Shields down to 98%, Torres replied. "Minor energy drain already recharging. Their weapons are designed to fight opponents with much weaker defensive systems." Chen nodded. Human shield technology was based on the same principles that protected Earth from its sun's deadly radiation. When your homeworld was constantly bombarded by cosmic rays and solar flares, you learned to build very good shields indeed. "Return fire," Chen ordered. "All weapons spread pattern. Let's show them what real firepower looks like." The human fleet responded like a pack of wolves. Each ship picked a target and opened fire with weapons that had been designed by a species that understood the true meaning of violence. Railguns hurled tungsten rods across space at speeds that made light look slow. Missile launchers released swarms of fusion warheads that could crack asteroids in half. Scarth's second ship vanished in a ball of nuclear fire before he could even react. "Evasive maneuvers," he screamed. "All ships, scatter formation." But the humans had expected this. Their weapons tracked the moving targets with computer-guided precision, while their tactics showed the kind of planning that came from millions of years of hunting prey that could think and plan and run. The hegemony ships were fast, but human missiles were faster. The raiders were well armed, but human weapons hit harder. Most importantly, the pirates were experienced at fighting civilized opponents who followed rules and tried to minimize casualties. Humans, who had learned warfare from creatures that ate their enemies alive, followed no such rules. "Sir," Vexic called out in panic. "3 more ships down. The humans are targeting our engines specifically. They're trying to capture us alive." Scarth felt ice water run through his veins. Capture meant interrogation. Interrogation meant revealing the locations of hegemony bases, supply routes, and planned raids. The humans weren't just winning this battle. They were preparing to hunt down every hegemony cell in the sector. "All ships ramming speed," Scarth ordered. "If we're going to die, we'll take some of them with us." It was the desperation move of a cornered predator. The hegemony ships abandoned all attempts at ranged combat and charged straight at the human fleet, hoping to use their armored hulls as weapons. The humans were ready for this too. "Incoming ramming attack," Torres reported. 6 ships on collision course. "Launch fighters," Chen ordered calmly. "Let's give our pilots some practice." The launch bays of the human ships opened and small craft shot out like angry hornets. But these were not the graceful fighters used by most galactic civilizations. They were angular, armored things that looked more like flying tanks than aircraft. The pilots inside those fighters were the products of a world where quick reflexes meant the difference between life and death. Their ancestors had dodged lightning-fast predators while chasing prey through 3-dimensional forest canopies. Their brains were wired for spatial thinking and split-second timing in ways that other species couldn't match. Lieutenant Rodriguez pulled her fighter into a barrel, roll that would have killed any other pilot with the G-forces involved. Her targeting computer locked onto a hegemony raider, and she fired a burst from her railgun. The tungsten slugs punched through the enemy ship's armor like it was made of paper. "Splash 1 bandit," she called over the communication channel. "These guys are way too slow." "Show off," came the voice of Lieutenant Park from another fighter. "Watch this." Park's fighter danced between 2 hegemony ships, using their own weapons fire to confuse their targeting systems. When both enemy vessels fired at him simultaneously, he dropped his fighter into a vertical dive that caused their plasma bolts to hit each other instead. The watching Cytherians could hardly believe what they were seeing. The human pilots moved through space like they were born to it, dodging weapons fire that should have been impossible to avoid, and landing shots that defied all tactical probability. "How are they so good?" Captain Veltar whispered to his bridge crew. "They make it look easy." What Veltar didn't understand was that for humans, this was easy. Every human child learned to play games that involved tracking multiple fast-moving objects while planning their own movements in 3-dimensional space. They called these games sports, and they played them for fun. The battle became a rout. Hegemony ships that had terrorized the sector for 20 years fell like leaves in an autumn storm. Their crews, who had thought themselves the apex predators of space, discovered what it meant to face creatures that had learned predation from the most dangerous world in the galaxy. Scarth's command ship was the last one left. His crew was dead or unconscious, his weapons were offline, and his engines were destroyed. He sat alone on his bridge, watching the human flagship approach through the smoke and debris of his fleet. A communication request came through his console. With nothing left to lose, Scarth accepted it. Admiral Chen's face appeared on his screen. She looked older now, tired from the battle, but her eyes still held that calm confidence that had terrified him from the beginning. "War Leader Scarth," she said, "your fleet is destroyed. Your crew is dead. You have 2 choices. Surrender now and face trial for your crimes, or die with your ship. Choose quickly. My people want to help the Cytherian wounded, and you're wasting our time." Scarth laughed bitterly. "You think this is over, human? The hegemony has dozens of fleets, hundreds of ships. We have bases throughout this sector. You cannot fight us all." Chen's expression didn't change. "You're probably right," she said. "We can't fight you all at once. But that's okay." "We don't have to. What do you mean?" "We're going to hunt you down 1 fleet at a time, 1 base at a time, 1 ship at a time if necessary. That's what humans do, Scarth. We're very patient and we never give up. Ask any species that ever tried to make humans extinct." Scarth felt his blood turn to ice. "You would hunt us across the entire galaxy? If that's what it takes to make sure you never hurt innocent people again, yes. My species learned a long time ago that the only way to deal with predators is to make them extinct. The communication channel went dead. Outside his viewport, Scarth could see human marines in armored suits approaching his ship. They moved with the fluid grace of apex predators, carrying weapons that could punch through his hull like tissue paper. For the first time in his life, War Leader Scarth understood what it meant to be prey. The age of hegemony terror was over. The age of human justice had begun. 3 days after the battle, Admiral Chen stood in the Retribution's medical bay watching human doctors work alongside Catherian healers to save the wounded. The sight still amazed her. 2 species from completely different worlds, one from a death world of endless violence, the other from peaceful ocean planets, working together as if they had known each other for years. Dr. Martinez, the ship's chief medical officer, was explaining human healing technology to a group of fascinated Catherians. His hands moved quickly as he demonstrated a bone regeneration device that could heal fractures in minutes. The key is controlled electrical stimulation, Martinez said in simple words that the translator could handle. We learned this technique by studying how our bodies heal from the constant injuries of living on Earth. Everything on our world tries to hurt us, so we got very good at fixing damage quickly. The Catherian healers watched with wide eyes as the device worked its magic on a wounded crew member's arm. Their own biohealing was advanced, but it took hours to do what human technology accomplished in minutes. Your species fascinates us, said healer Nim Ara, her gills fluttering with excitement. You come from a world of death, yet you are so skilled at preserving life. How is this possible? Dr. Martinez smiled. When death is always close, you learn to value life more than anything else. Every human doctor swears an oath to do no harm. It's one of our oldest traditions. Chen turned away from the medical bay and walked toward the bridge. The cooperation between their species was encouraging, but she had more pressing concerns. Intelligence reports from the captured hegemony prisoners had revealed something that made her stomach turn. The hegemony wasn't just a collection of pirates. They were a vast criminal empire with bases throughout 3 sectors of space. They had been growing stronger for decades, taking advantage of the Galactic Consortium's reluctance to use military force. Thousands of peaceful ships had been destroyed, millions of civilians killed or enslaved, and it was about to get much worse. Admiral, Commander Torres called as Chen entered the bridge. We finished analyzing the data from the hegemony ships. You're not going to like what we found. Chen settled into her command chair. Show me. The main screen lit up with a star map showing hegemony positions throughout the sector. Red dots marked known bases, while yellow markers showed suspected locations. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds. This isn't a pirate operation, Torres continued. It's a full-scale conquest. They've been systematically destroying trade routes and attacking peaceful colonies to clear the way for expansion. In 6 months, they plan to launch a coordinated assault on the consortium's main naval base. Chen studied the map with growing anger. The hegemony had been playing a long game, weakening their enemies while building up overwhelming force. When they finally revealed their true strength, it would be too late for the peaceful species of the galaxy to defend themselves. What's the consortium's response to our reports? Chen asked. They're calling for diplomatic talks, Torres replied with disgust. They want to negotiate a peace treaty with the hegemony leadership. Chen closed her eyes and counted to 10. The Galactic Consortium meant well, but they had never faced an enemy like this. They still believed that all conflicts could be resolved through discussion and compromise. They had never learned the hard truth that some predators only understood force. Orders from Earth? She asked. Admiral Marcus sends his compliments and full authorization for whatever action you deem necessary, Torres said. His exact words were, do what humans do best. Chen felt a cold smile cross her face. She knew exactly what Admiral Marcus meant. Humans had faced extinction many times in their history. Each time they had survived by doing something that other species found horrifying. They had hunted their enemies to extinction first. Communications. Get me a secure channel to all Terran Defense Force ships in this sector, Chen ordered. Channel open. Admiral. This is Admiral Chen to all TDF vessels. Operation Shepherd is now in effect. We have a flock to protect and wolves to hunt. You know what to do. Across the sector, human ships began to move. Unlike other species who organized their fleets around massive battles and territorial conquest, humans had learned a different kind of warfare. They hunted in packs using speed and intelligence to track down their prey wherever it tried to hide. The TDF destroyer Wolfpack was the first to strike. Captain Kim had tracked a hegemony supply convoy to a hidden base in an asteroid field. Instead of calling for backup or demanding surrender, she simply destroyed the base's defenses and captured every ship in the system. The interrogation of the prisoners revealed the location of 2 more bases, which were attacked within hours by other human ships. Each base that fell revealed more targets, and each target led to more intelligence. The hegemony leadership, safely hidden in their fortress system of Morgash, watched their empire crumble with growing panic. Ships that had terrorized space lanes for decades were disappearing without a trace. Bases that had seemed impregnable were falling to human assault teams that struck like ghosts in the night. "How are they finding us so quickly?" demanded Supreme War Leader Thakron, the overall commander of hegemony forces. "Our security is perfect. Our locations are secret." His intelligence chief, a scarred veteran named Crixnall, studied the reports with growing dread. "They're not finding us through intelligence gathering," he said slowly. "They're tracking us the way predators track prey. Each attack leads them to the next target. That's impossible. No species fights that way." "No civilized species fights that way," Crixnall corrected. "But these humans aren't civilized. They're hunting us like animals, and they're very good at it." The truth was even worse than Crixnall imagined. Human military doctrine was based on the concept of total war. When humans decided that an enemy needed to be eliminated, they didn't stop until every trace of that enemy was gone. They had learned this approach from studying the extinction of the apex predators that had once threatened their ancestors. Captain Okafor of the TDF cruiser, Spear of Justice, demonstrated this philosophy when she cornered a hegemony fleet trying to escape through a nebula. Instead of engaging in a traditional battle, she used the nebula's own gases against them, igniting a chain reaction that destroyed every enemy ship at once. "No survivors," she reported calmly to Admiral Chen. "The nebula is clear of hostile forces." "Any civilian casualties?" Chen asked. "Negative, Admiral. We confirmed all escape pods and non-combatant vessels were clear before igniting the gas clouds." This was the difference between human warfare and the hegemony's reign of terror. Humans were utterly ruthless toward their enemies, but they went to extreme lengths to protect innocent life. Every human military unit included specialists whose only job was to make sure civilians were safe. The Catherians, still traveling under human escort toward their new colony, watched these reports with amazement and growing respect. The species they had thought were monsters were actually the galaxy's most effective protectors. "They're not destroying the hegemony for conquest or profit," Captain Veltar said to his crew. "They're doing it because it's the right thing to do." "But they're so efficient at killing," Morlin replied. "How can such violent creatures be so moral?" "Maybe they're moral because they're violent," suggested Creven. "Maybe learning to be the best killers in the galaxy taught them the true value of life." As the human fleet continued its systematic destruction of hegemony forces, word spread throughout the galaxy. The peaceful species who had suffered under pirate attacks for decades began to hope for the first time in years. The predator species who had thought themselves untouchable began to look over their shoulders with fear. The universe was learning a simple truth that humans had known for millions of years. The most dangerous predator was the one that hunted to protect its family, and humanity had just adopted the entire galaxy as their family. Captain Veltar stood in the observation lounge of the human ship Retribution, watching the stars drift by through the reinforced windows. 2 weeks had passed since the battle that saved his convoy, and he still found it hard to believe what he had witnessed. The lounge was built for humans, with furniture sized for their strange bipedal frames and gravity set to Earth normal. Veltar wore a mobility suit that helped him move in the crushing environment. But even with mechanical assistance, every step reminded him that he was aboard a ship built by creatures from a death world. "The stars look different when you're safe," said a voice behind him. Veltar turned to see Admiral Chen approaching. The human commander looked tired but content, like a predator that had successfully defended its territory. She carried a cup of something that steamed and smelled bitter. Coffee, she had called it. Another product of the death world that somehow helped humans think more clearly. "Admiral," Veltar said, inclining his head in respect. "I wanted to thank you again before we reach the colony world. My people owe you a debt we can never repay." Chen sat down in a chair beside him, moving with the fluid grace that all humans seem to possess. "You don't owe us anything, Captain. We did what was right. That's what humans do, but why? Veltar asked. Your species gains nothing from protecting us. We have no military alliance, no trade agreements. You came when we called for help simply because we needed help. Chen sipped her coffee thoughtfully. Where I come from, we have an old saying. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. The hegemony was evil. You needed help. So we helped. Veltar's gills fluttered as he processed this concept. Most species in the galaxy operated on principles of mutual benefit. Trade deals, military alliances, resource exchanges. The idea of helping strangers simply because it was moral was almost unknown outside of human space. Your species confuses us, Veltar admitted. You are the most dangerous creatures any of us have ever encountered. Your weapons can destroy fleets. Your soldiers move like living nightmares, yet you use all that power to protect people you've never met. Maybe that's why we're dangerous, Chen replied. We learned early in our history that the strongest predator isn't necessarily the one with the biggest teeth or the sharpest claws. It's the one that works together with others to protect what matters. Through the observation window, they could see the other ships of the convoy. The damaged Catherian vessels were healing themselves with their biotechnology, slowly repairing the wounds inflicted by hegemony weapons. Human engineering teams worked alongside Catherian bioshapers, sharing techniques and learning from each other. Admiral, Veltar said carefully, there are rumors spreading through the galaxy. Stories about your people. Some species are calling you the Star Guardians now. Others use less friendly terms. Chen raised an eyebrow. What kind of less friendly terms? The hegemony remnants call you the death that hunts. The consortium politicians are calling you dangerous destabilizers. Some military commanders refer to your fleet as the human problem. Chen laughed, a sound that was both warm and slightly predatory. I suppose that's fair. We are pretty dangerous when someone threatens innocent people. How do your people see us? My people are calling you the swimmers who hunt in the deep dark, Veltar replied. It's a term of great respect among Catherians. It refers to the ancient guardians of our deepest oceans, creatures so powerful that even the greatest predators flee from them. I like that better than the death that hunts, Chen admitted. A communication alert chimed through the ship's speakers. Chen touched a control on her chair's armrest, and Commander Torres's voice filled the lounge. Admiral, we're receiving priority communications from Earth. Admiral Marcus wants to speak with you personally. Put him through to my ready room, Chen replied. I'll be there in a moment. She stood to leave, then paused and looked back at Veltar. Captain, I want you to know something. This isn't over. The hegemony was just the beginning. There are other predator species out there. Other threats to peaceful civilizations. My people have decided that we're not going to stand by and watch innocents suffer anymore. What does that mean for the galaxy? It means that peaceful species like yours are under our protection now, whether you ask for it or not. And any predator that wants to hurt innocents will have to go through us first. Chen left the lounge, leaving Veltar alone with his thoughts. Through the window, he could see human patrol ships moving in formation around the convoy. They never stopped watching, never stopped being ready. Even in supposedly safe space, they maintained their guard. In her ready room, Chen activated the quantum communication link to Earth. The image of Admiral Marcus appeared on her screen, his weathered face showing the strain of commanding humanity's expansion into galactic politics. Sarah, he said without preamble, I've been getting calls from consortium leadership all day. They're not happy about your recent activities. I assume they want us to stop hunting down hegemony remnants? Chen replied. They want you to show restraint and respect for galactic law, Marcus said with obvious distaste. Apparently, completely destroying a criminal organization that was responsible for millions of deaths is considered excessive force. Chen leaned back in her chair. What did you tell them? I told them that humans have a different definition of justice than most species. I also reminded them that we're not members of the consortium, so their laws don't apply to us. How did they take that? About as well as you'd expect. They're threatening economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation. Some of them are even talking about forming a military coalition to contain the human threat. Chen felt a familiar coldness settle in her stomach. It was the same feeling she'd had when facing the hegemony fleet, the calm focus that came before violence. They want to threaten us for protecting innocent people? Some of them do, Marcus admitted. But others are starting to see things differently. 3 more species have requested human protection in the last week. The gentle builders, the crystal singers, and the tree shepherds, all peaceful races that have been targeted by various predator species. What are your orders, sir? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of history. Sarah, our species has spent most of its existence being threatened by things that wanted to kill us. We learned to be very good at killing those things first. Now we're among the stars, and we've found that the galaxy is full of predators and prey species, just like Earth was. Yes, sir. The difference is that on Earth, we were just another species trying to survive. Out here, we're the apex predators, and with that power comes responsibility. Chen understood perfectly. We protect the weak and hunt the predators. Exactly. The consortium can complain all they want. The predator species can threaten us, but at the end of the day, there are millions of innocent beings in this galaxy who need protection, and we're the only ones capable of providing it. What about the species that see us as a threat? Let them be afraid, Marcus said firmly. Fear keeps predators away from prey, and if any species decides that they want to test humanity's resolve, they'll learn the same lesson the hegemony learned. The communication link closed, leaving Chen alone with her thoughts. Outside her window, the stars continued their eternal dance, beautiful and cold and infinite. Somewhere among those stars, predator species were planning attacks on innocent civilizations. Somewhere else, peaceful beings were sending out distress signals that might or might not be answered. But now there was a new factor in the galactic equation. Humanity had arrived, and they had brought with them all the lessons learned from 4 billion years of evolution on the most dangerous world in the galaxy. The age of easy prey was over. The age of human guardianship had begun. 3 days later, Captain Veltar stood on the surface of his people's new colony world, watching the Catherian ships descend from orbit to begin building their new civilization. The world was beautiful, with vast oceans and floating continents that would be perfect for their biocities. High above, human patrol ships maintained their vigil, ready to respond to any threat. The humans had established a permanent base in the system, not to control the Catherians, but to protect them from anyone who might wish them harm. As Veltar watched, a group of human children from the garrison played with young Catherians in the shallow waters of the landing bay. The human children moved awkwardly in the water, while the Catherian youngsters struggled with the concept of breathing air. But they were learning from each other, laughing together, becoming friends. It was a sight that would have been impossible just weeks ago. The galaxy's most dangerous predators and one of its most peaceful species, working together to build something beautiful. Veltar's communication device chimed with an incoming message. It was from Admiral Chen, who was already 3 systems away, responding to another distress call. Captain, her voice said across the stars, we've received reports of raider attacks in the Spiral Rim. A species called the Star Weavers is under assault by something called the Iron Claw Brotherhood. We're moving to assist. Be safe, Admiral, Veltar replied. And thank you for everything. Just doing our job, Captain. Protecting the innocent is what humans do.